Good afternoon, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. Thought I'd make a video because, as you know, my sweet wife is gone. She went out to Denver to visit our daughter and her family until next week. It is October the 17th, 2025. It is 12:53 in the afternoon. It's a gray day. It's supposed to rain this weekend. We need rain. I was just outside throwing some cracked corn out to the birds, and it's kind of warm outside, but it's dismal. It's gray. So this is a Friday Reads. What have I been reading on a Friday? Well, not much really. I've been listening to some stuff that I just got out because I've been reading, as you know, for a couple weeks, this book, The Remarkable Collection of Angels, the history of the 6th gallery reading, which took place on October the 7th, 1955 in a art space gallery in San Francisco where Allen Ginsberg first read HOWL. This is my edition of HOWL. It's kind of interesting. In reading Remarkable Collection of Angels by the Beat scholar David S. Wells, he says that Allen Ginsberg is one of America's greatest poets, and he wrote, Allen Ginsberg passed away a number of years ago, that he wrote one of the most well-known, worldwide, famous poems, HOWL. HOWL. And I bet most of those people out there watching this video have never read HOWL. Well, maybe I've come across, and I've mentioned in my videos, I come across people, now I'm 73 years old, I come from a different generation, granted, but they've never read HOWL. Now my HOWL edition, you can tell I have a newer one that I found used, somewhere I found used, but this is my own copy I've had for many years. And when I was in seminary in Jackson, Mississippi, I was there in the middle, probably, I can't remember the days, but 85, 86, 87, somewhere around there. Allen Ginsberg was in Jackson, Mississippi, and he was giving a poetry reading at a small private black college, and I read it in the newspaper there in Jackson, Mississippi, and I went to that reading and saw Allen Ginsberg, and he signed my edition of HOWL. I had it with me, and I asked him after the poetry reading, could he sign it, and he signed it. And he drew a little sunflower, and he wrote down the date, 5/30/86, Allen Ginsberg, Jackson, Mississippi. So yeah, so I saw Allen Ginsberg. And I have a photo of him and me sitting side by side. I took a camera, and I asked someone to take a picture of Allen Ginsberg and me, and he very graciously agreed, even though I don't think he was smiling in the photo. I've shown those photos over the years in these videos. So yeah, I got this, my copy was published in 1974, and this is the 27th copy. Yeah, I went to, I can't remember when I've had this for years. I probably got it around 1974. I was over in San Francisco, City Lights bookstore, and I picked a copy up. See, City Lights bookstore, San Francisco. So the point is that In one of my recent videos, I kind of didn't clarify that when he read HOWL, that was an early draft. So you can pick up this book called HOWL, the 50th anniversary edition, original draft, facsimiles, transcript, variant versions, fully annotated by the author Allen Ginsberg, with contemporaneous correspondence, account of first public reading, legal skirmishes, precursor text, and bibliography. Now, there was a trial when Ferengeti, who started City Lights Bookstore, there was saying that HOWL contained profanity. And there was a trial. I have a book on it, but I didn't bring it up here. So, but you can see the many, there are, so the point I was trying to make in my video, that probably when he read HOWL there on October the 7th, 1955 at the Sixth Gallery in San Francisco, he probably didn't read the HOWL that was eventually published by Ferengeti, who started City Lights Bookstore. But if you want to see the early drafts, you can read this if you're into HOWL. Yeah, when you get my age and you talk about writers or poets or books, people who are younger kind of just look at you like, what are you talking about? Like I've mentioned Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, William Burroughs, Gary Snyder, Philip Walden, Anne Carson, Anne Walden, all these poets, and they don't, or writers, and they don't know what you're talking about. But that's true about anything. So the point is that this morning and today I got out to look at HOWL, the 50th anniversary edition, and to read about it here. So you can see it's where was working on it. Sometimes you get the idea, well, he just sat down and he was inspired and he wrote HOWL. Well, it's kind of interesting to read how he wrote it and what was going on in Allen Ginsberg's life. I think at the time he was living in Berkeley. Anyway, it's kind of interesting to read the history, and you can read about it in this book when he goes into, there's a whole chapter on the writing of HOWL. There's a chapter in here. See? The writing of HOWL. It's a really interesting book if you're into beat mythology, or Allen Ginsberg, that whole literary movement, poetry movement. So I got that out. As far as what I've been reading is, I've been dabbing into the Eternal Son, Robert Latham, this morning and this afternoon, but I also listened to this morning. Well, I mentioned in my last video that I had been listening to Jack Kerouac, and I got out my Jack Kerouac collection. I bought this when we were in Houston, when I was doing my ministerial internship. I read, my wife for many years always got newspapers wherever we lived. Jackson, Mississippi, when we first moved to Holland, when we lived in Jackson, Mississippi, Houston, Grand Rapids. She's always got newspapers. Now she reads the Washington Post on her iPhone. Because, as you know, my brother, he worked for the Washington Post for 30 years as a photographer. photojournalist. So that's how I found out when we were living in Jackson that Allen Ginsberg was giving a poetry reading at this small liberal arts black college. And when we were in Houston, I read that about Jack Kerouac Collection. Now, unfortunately, mine's not on CD, it's on cassette. And it comes with this, so I've been listening to these in the mornings, like it comes little cassettes. And it's apparently back in the 50s or 60s, they were put on vinyl. Now I haven't really done any research, but I think these were first on vinyl. I know that William Burroughs has vinyl, Allen Ginsberg has vinyl of HOWL, but now you can get this on CD, but I haven't spent the money to get them on a CD. I had these cassettes, I bought them at a record store when we lived in Houston. When I wanted to get the Jack Kerouac collection, I called all over Houston to find if any record store or bookstore had it. And I finally found a place. I had to drive almost an hour into. Now, we didn't live in downtown Houston. We lived on the outskirts. I think we lived west of Houston. And I had to drive and find this place. It took me almost an hour, and I found it in some neighborhood in Houston, and they had it, and I bought it. And so it comes with all this early photos of, let me see here, there's an early photo of Jack Kerouac. So yeah, it comes with this, it's kind of like, it has like an article, Kerouac as a Musician by Gerard Nacasta. Nacasta, he wrote a very famous biography on Ginsberg that I have downstairs. As you know, Jack Kerouac was a merchant marine. He did that. So did Allen Ginsberg. There's another picture of Jack Kerouac with this little suitcase. So yeah, I've been listening to this. There's different Jack Kerouac blues and haikus featuring Al Cohen. Yeah, when in these readings, Jack Kerouac has a jazz combo behind him, piano, sax, trombone. Back in the 50s, and sometimes when they would recite poetry, they had jazz, little combo behind them. Poetry for the Beat Generation, Jack Kerouac. And Steve Allen, there was a Steve Allen special. You can see this if you want to watch it. If you go to YouTube and type in Jack Kerouac and Steve Allen, you can see Steve Allen show. I'm not sure if he had Jack Kerouac on the show, but there's Steve Allen playing the piano and Jack Kerouac reciting his poetry. And then it comes with there's 4 cassettes. And I've been listening to them in the mornings. Oh, this just fell apart. So I've been doing that. Oh, I don't know. One thing about cassettes, I mean, in these little cases, they're always breaking. I don't know. So I've been listening to Jack Kerouac. Forget it. Oh, and I just lost the, so I listened to Jack Kerouac reciting, he reads from his poetry, he reads from his novels, and it's not full text all the time. I also got out something I bought when we first moved here to Holland. I read that this was coming out, this box set called The Beat Generation, and it's kind of like more historical, looking at the phenomena of the Beat Generation, and it has all these recordings centered around the Beat Generation. See, it comes with a little called the Beat. When I wanted to buy this, I wasn't working at that time, and I didn't have any money, so I had to sell some books. I think they cost me $40 for this box set. So, and I sold some books, and I bought it at some place in Grand Rapids, and it's called it's basically looking at the Beats historically, looking at how they were commercialized, how they were portrayed in movies, kind of trying to make money off them like they did with the hippies. And so it has book covers in here. So I've been listening to that. There's a picture of Allen Ginsberg with Bob Dylan, and that is McClure. I can't remember the first name. He was a San Francisco poet. So I've been listening to these in the morning. These are they're also on cassettes. Been listening to these. If you're into the Beat Generation. So I've been listening to these in the mornings since Carol's not here, and I have this little boombox that I listen to stuff on. I bought this at a recent garage sale this summer. A lady who passed away, they were selling stuff in her house, and I bought that for $15. For many years, I had boom boxes. I always bought stuff on cassette. When we lived in Jackson, Mississippi, I listened to music on cassette. And when we were in Houston, I listened to stuff on cassette. I have videos where I've shown you my cassette collection, my music cassette collection. I still have it. Even when I was in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, before I moved to go to Bible college in Grand Rapids, I listened to music on cassette. So I still have those. See, there's a jazz saxophonist and poetry reading and things like that. See? So if you're into the Beat Generation, and I also got out my Allen Ginsberg. Now this is on CD. It's not cassette. This is Allen Ginsberg, Holy Soul Jelly Roll, Poems and Songs, 1949 to 1993. So I got this out because you have another little booklet, all this photos and history of Allen Ginsberg, and there's Allen Ginsberg and Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was influenced by Ginsberg, the Beats. And if you listen to early Bob Dylan, he was influenced by the blues, the Mississippi Delta blues artists, folk artists. He was also influenced by the Beats, Allen Ginsberg. So yeah, this comes in CDs. This is Holy Soul Jelly Roll, Poems and songs, 1949, 1993. Here you have Moloch, which is, I think, a part of, I think HOWL comes in 3 parts, and one of the parts is Moloch, and then it comes with, this one is from his, this is Allen Ginsberg reciting from his poem Kaddish, or Kaddish. And then you have CD 3, just him, different poems. These are songs. So I have that in my my Allen Ginsberg box set. So I got that out to listen to HOWL and to him. So, and then I mentioned about the San Francisco Renaissance when back in 1955, when Ginsberg and Kerouac was there was already a thriving poetry scene in San Francisco, going back, the 50s, the 40s, going back to early the early 19th century up into the early 20th century. Anyway, when I moved here to Holland, they had a record store downtown, and I bought this box set one time, Howl's, Raps, and Roars, recordings from the San Francisco Poetry Renaissance. So here you have Lenny Bruce, who is considered, a comedian, very controversial, very political. I have a biography in him. Now, how many of you out there have heard of Lenny Bruce? I have, but maybe, and there's recordings of him on, this is also on CD. These are on CD, not cassette. See, it comes with another, there's a picture of Ginsberg, all kinds of, there's a picture of, up there in the corner, of Lenny Bruce, and different. So yeah, you have these CDs. Lenny Bruce is on this one. John Wiener's, Philip Walden, Allen Ginsberg, Lou Welch, McClure, just different. So I got these out to listen to. We have Lawrence Ferlinghetti autobiography here. Kenneth Roxburgh, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Gregory Curso, Peter. This is mainly, looks like more like the Beats instead of, yeah, this is all Allen Ginsberg. I don't know, but so got those out to listen to. Yeah, I've always been into, I'm into poetry, modernist poetry, like Auden and Wallace Stevens and just different poets, Anne Sexton, Sylvia Plath, people like that. And of course, Walt Whitman, the 19th century American poet, and Herman Melville, and Emily Dickinson, Hart Crane, and D.H. Lawrence, and of course, Frank O'Hare, the New York City poets, and people like that. But I like, people ask me, where are you from? Well, I grew up all over the place, but I was born in Oakland, California, and I consider, even though I lived in Virginia and Maryland and Washington, D.C. and Oregon and all over the place, I lived in the Bay Area since I was 16 until I was around 27, 28. So I consider Since I was born in Oakland, California in 1952, August, I consider myself West Coast, San Francisco Bay Area kind of person. Even though I'm a Christian, I've always been kind of attracted to bohemianism, avant-garde, modernism, underground, you know, an outsider. I mean, like I told you, when I became a Christian, I kind of lived on the outskirts of society, and then I lived and was on staff in a rescue mission in Skid Row in Richmond, California, when I was like in my early 20s. And before that, I was involved in street ministry and Christian communes. But then when I got into the Puritans and got into Calvinism, I realized over a period of time that I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to be a gospel minister. So I had gone to college for a year and a half. So I finished college. I went to Reformed Bible College in Grand Rapids, which is now Kuiper College. And of course, you know, the American nightmare never happened. And now I'm 73 years old, living a very comfortable middle-class life in Babylon and waiting for the final collapse of the civilization of mankind. Reading HOWL. Yeah, I think Moloch is, let me see, I'll look at it in a minute here. Moloch. Is that one of the parts? Let me see. 2. Footnote on HOWL. Oh, I don't see it now. Yeah, Moloch is part 2 of HOWL. So I'm reading HOWL, reading San Francisco poets, looking at how the different editions were facsimiles. Also, one thing else I didn't show you is that I not only have something else is missing here. I don't know, oh, here it is. This is the Jack Kerouac ROMnibus. Unfortunately, when I had a new computer, our oldest son built us a computer, it won't run this. And what this is, it has the original scroll on it. It has history of the beats. It has the full edition of the Dharma Bums you can look at and read. It has music. It's basically everything you want to know about Jack Kerouac and the beats. It's a multimedia thing, but it won't play on our computer. And so, also, when I was looking at this, I gotta hurry up because this thing's gonna shut down in a minute. As I was looking at this, there was in here Jack Kerouac and William Burroughs and the Hippos boiled in their tanks a novel. This is on audio CDs, and this is the book. So it's these people reading this novel by Jack Kerouac and William Burroughs and the Hippos boil in their tanks. I bought this when we were visiting our son many years ago when he was at Boston College. I bought it at a bookstore in downtown Boston. But this came into the Book Nook a number of years ago when I was volunteering there. So I was listening to this morning. This was never published until after Kerouac died. When Kerouac wrote a lot of things that were never published when he was living, and when he died, all these things that he had written were being published because he could make money off them. So yeah, this came into the Book Nook, so I would listen to that. So I gotta sign off.